Okay, good morning. And we are working on doing some more of our writing project that's coming up. And last week, you guys were supposed to do the first part of it, which was brainstorming. And we had a lot of people that had some struggles with that. I sent it back for people who need to take a look at it. And the brainstorming is really important because it gets your information flowing, your ideas flowing, and then we're going to use that to do what we're doing today. So real quickly, I want to review a couple of things. First of all, the 29th is going to be next week, and we'll be sending out progress notes. So make sure that you have turned in any of your ready reading. There's 2 of them that we were working on. That is due by Friday the 22nd. If you don't turn those into me, I'm not going to be grading them or going back. I gave you this week to have extra time to do that. So I expect everybody to have turned that in by Friday, or you'll just have to take the 0 on that. And I want to take just a minute to show you a little bit about this week. We're going to talk a little bit, because I haven't had a lesson yet this week, but I want to talk about pronouns real quick. You can see this week on our attendance that I actually have a really nice PowerPoint here. These things will definitely be on whatever final test we have for the quarter. So I'll make sure that I made sure they were in the attendance. You can find them again. But there's basically 7 types of pronouns. Notice how they have these names that are really hard to figure out, like relative, indefinite. Some of these terms are tricky. So one of the reasons why we are using them in the attendance is to make sure that you kind of have an idea. And then even, I teach this stuff, and sometimes I have to remember it again, what they're called. But just a real quick review, if you didn't look at the slides, personal pronouns are the ones we've been talking about. They're either subjective or objective, like I and me. I does the action, me receives the action, right? I go to the park, right? Or I don't say me go to the park. So that idea of the different cases is what that's called. Here's your example, right? He didn't want to go alone. Possessive pronouns are really important in English. There's 2 ways to make possession. You can either put apostrophe S, like Miss Carlisle's lesson, apostrophe S. Or I could say, my lesson, if I'm talking about me, right? My lesson today is about how to do your writing project. So possessive pronouns like my or mine, our and ours, your and yours, and his and hers, right? These possessive pronouns are very important in English. Reflexive are when you have the self at the end of it, like I gave it to myself, right? And so reflexive is when the person doing the action is kind of receiving it as well. It's a little bit tricky, but you can always tell reflexive because they end in self. Or if it's plural, selves. Notice the change. You don't say selves, you say selves. So this is a list, right? Different reflexive pronouns. Andre just wanted to be by himself. And then once again, just be careful how you use those. I'll let you look at that on your own. The relative pronouns are ones we use that introduce relative clauses. And in other words, like you're kind of connecting or describing something, okay? And these ones that use who or whom, right? They usually have the little commas that set them off. So for example, the pirate captain, comma, who had never seen the inside of a schoolroom, comma, struggled to read the ransom note. Poor pirate, he really had a hard time getting through that. So this is called an appositive phrase, where you basically have a noun and then you use these phrases like who or whom or whose, right? Who, blah, 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 blah. And you're basically describing or you're renaming, okay? So a lot of times they will put commas around these to set them off. We use that the most probably, and which the most. So I'll say, Jamie is the student who won the award. But I might say, this is an award that is given every year. So these relative pronouns, they're kind of almost like the conjunctions where you're almost connecting. We use them all the time in our speech and we just don't really think about it. So that and which are the most common ones you'll see for that. They're called relative pronouns, and they're going to introduce clauses that are related to something in the sentence. I'm going to move on to demonstrative. This is when I used one just now. This is when, right? So this is my favorite book. It's demonstrative in that it's going to demonstrate to you by you just said something and you're like, and this is an example of that, right? This is my favorite book, or that is my favorite book. If there's more than one, it's these and those. Indefinite pronouns, look at the whole list of them. Another, all, anyone. And they're indefinite because they're not personal pronouns. You're not relating them back to an antecedent necessarily. It's like you don't know maybe what the answer is. So you can see Officer Ramirez heard something moving behind the dumpster, okay? And words like many, right? Many go to the mall, but few actually buy anything, you know? So you've got words like few and all, and these are called indefinite pronouns because they really don't necessarily relate back to an antecedent, okay? They're too general. This one, you really need to know the interrogative pronouns. Did you ever wonder, right? These are question words like who, what, which, whose. Notice how they all start with W's, right? What's inside the chest, right? And I never really thought about it, but those words are actually pronouns, okay? Because they're related to a noun that you're kind of describing, but these are used for interrogation, right? Interrogative. And then, of course, then they give examples in the slide deck. So we're going to be keeping these, using them for the next couple of weeks. This week and next week in particular, we're going to be really looking at the types of pronouns. We'll be having on my next slide deck, I'll give you some information on that. So don't forget to do your attendance one more time this week, all right? And then moving on, I just want to remind you once again about these ready reading slides, guys. It's 20 points. It's the other half of your grade. So if you don't turn these in, and hey, make your best guess. Hey, half of the points is better than none. So please make sure you turn these in to me. All right, they were due last week. So I'm giving you another week to turn them in, and then I'm not going back and looking at them anymore. If I don't see them by Friday, the 22nd, nope. And if I sent them back to you and you want to try to redo them, you'll have to make an appointment with me. And remember, guys, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have time. Please just reach out to me. And every day at noon, I sit here and nobody comes and asks me any questions. I just sit here, okay? Click on the little meets for noon meeting and come see me. I'll be happy to help you. There's nobody that shouldn't have an A in my class right now, okay? If you did the slides, that might bring you down to a B or C, okay, if you have problems with that. But I've got people failing, and it's because they're not doing iReady, which is not something new. We've been, that's always been what we have to do in class. 45 minutes, please. And then our writing lessons. The first one, this is a bonus. I'm going to be putting in doing the Kia game activity. I'm going to put that in as bonus points for people who need to bump up their grade a little bit toward the end of the quarter. But this is the first step. So if you didn't turn this brainstorming in or you turned in something blank, I'm calling home. If you turn in blank work to me, I'm making a phone call home. This is ridiculous. If you didn't do it, just don't click that you did it. It's very frustrating because not only are you lying to your parents and yourself, but I waste my time clicking into something that's blank. Don't do that. I'm calling home and I'm emailing home for people that continue to turn in blank work for me. So with all that being said, I'm going back to my people in class. Any questions? Anybody want to type in anything? Questions anybody has? Okay, I know that was pretty quick, but feel free to watch the video again, and if we want to go back. So today I want to talk real quickly about our project. Our project is going to be in several parts, and this is because we're practicing the writing process. So you can see our first part, right, was to be able to do these little planning things. So I'm going to take a look at John's for a minute just to kind of show you an example. And our first part was to go ahead and brainstorm, right? Put down things that you know about or that you're interested in. And it could be anything. I mean, maybe you like the weather and maybe you're, I don't know. There could be lots of stuff. I've seen some interesting things, but maybe if you're really into sports, most of your things will have to do with sports or video. That's okay. This is the brainstorming part. Let your mind go. Okay. And then notice how you have to use the different question words, right? And the reason you want to do that is that at the end, like, you have to pick a topic. So from this, you pick the topic, and here's your topic right here. This is what you're committing to writing about, okay? And now you're going to brainstorm a little bit more by using question words to actually write questions, right? And then the next step I'm going to teach you today is to take any three of these and use them to do your expository writing organization. So by next week, you'll have your basically your outline for the body of your paper and a little bit about the introduction that's going to introduce your writing. Then the next week you'll write your rough draft and you'll include a conclusion. That should get you to about 5 paragraphs. So don't freak out. 5 paragraphs is not that long. Like, each paragraph only needs to be about 4 sentences. So I think most of you guys can come up, since this is your topic you picked, with enough information. What we're playing with here is, how do you effectively share what you know, and let us know. I'm not making research. There is no research involved here. Pick something you know about and tell me what you know. And we're going to organize that this week. The week after that, you're going to write rough draft and then a final draft the next week. So the final draft will be a slide deck, so you can be thinking about like getting pictures or things like that while you're organizing. So today I'm going to show you real quickly. I'm going to be posting this in our assignments today, and I'll also put our video we're doing in there today. So real quickly, what are you doing this week for this lesson? You're going to organize your expository essay. You're going to use a graphic organizer to plan your essay. You're going to create a hook to engage your reader, and we're going to practice that right now. So basically, when you're doing this, you're going to use your brainstorming. That's why it's important that you actually do the brainstorming part. So some of you guys, I returned it. I didn't even put a grade on it. Like, take a look and do that part. Not only am I grading each one of these 3 sections, and then the final product is going to be counting as a test, but it's really important that you get that it's okay to take a little bit of time to plan. Planning your essay is as important as writing it. So choose 3 questions from your list. These will be the topic sentences for your 3 paragraphs, and use the organizer on slide 3 to put the information that you want to share about each topic. And you're going to create a hook and a thesis statement. So don't worry about thesis statement so much. I just want you to get used to hearing that word. A thesis statement is really important when you're going to write about something you're taking a position on and you're trying to convince or persuade. The thesis statement is really important because it's like, I believe this is the right thing, or, this is the position I'm taking. But even in something like this, you still will have probably a thesis statement in your introductory paragraph. So take a look here at slide 3. So this is informational for you. It's like, what am I talking about when I talk about the hook, the background, or the thesis, okay? And so basically on this page, it's just reminding you, you're organizing your introductory paragraph. What is your topic? And that's why you have to narrow it down. And how can I hook my reader? And what is my purpose in writing this? I'm going to share with you how to do something. I'm going to share with you, I'm going to describe this really important book, or this really amazing person that I I know a lot about. I have a sport that I'm going to show you some of the most important things you need to know to be successful at the sport. What is your purpose? Okay, you're going to be describing or sharing. You're going to tell about something, right? And so you can see this big, it's an upside down pyramid, and that's because they're looking at the idea that you're going to spend probably more time up here with that attention grabber, right? Like Andre was talking about maybe doing spear fishing, right? I thought that was so cool. I've never been spear fishing, so you might start with something like, have you ever watched a movie where the people are scuba diving and they have big long spears, in their hands, and then they shoot a fish, right? And have you ever wanted to do that? Well, in my essay, I'm going to be talking about, right, this is background or purpose, right? What's some relevant background on the specific purpose, right? You can say, I learned a lot about this last summer, and in this essay, I'm going to explain, how to do it, and you can go back to your questions. I'm going to explain how to do it. I'm going to explain the equipment that you need, and I'm going to tell why I enjoy it so much. Yeah. So your introduction hooks people first and then tells a little bit about the topic. And then your thesis is like, what is it that you're going to tell? And you can use those question words to do that. So the roadmap is kind of like optional to it, but this roadmap thesis part kind of goes together. A roadmap gives the reader a general sense of how you'll organize the different points. And that's where you're kind of saying, I'm going to tell you how, I'm going to tell you where, I'm going to tell you when. And your thesis statement in this case might be like, I think this book is really amazing, and I would like to tell you more about it, something like that. So that's the basic screen for that. And then this is the lesson about what is the last movie you've ever seen? How did it start? Most of the time, the opening scene is designed to capture your interest. Same thing in books, right? So they're going to tell you something to get you interested. And this is called the hook. It's important that you hook your reader, not just say, here's an example of what not to do. It says, here is my essay about penguins. I am going to write facts that you may not know about penguins. Pretty boring. It's not that it's not what you're doing, but it would be more interesting to try and hook them. So down here, you can see there's some examples, okay? You can ask a question, right? Like I just did. Begin with a question. What do you really know about penguins, right? Or ask a rhetorical question. And this is a question that isn't really asking for an answer. It's not like yes or no. For example, who doesn't find penguins fascinating and adorable creatures? So it's almost more like a statement, but it's done like a question. It's rhetorical. It gets you to thinking about what you think. You can tell a story, right? And when I was 5, I went to the zoo for the first time. Andre, this might be good, like what you were talking about with the spearfishing. Like you can say, when I went to Mexico last summer, I learned how to spearfish. It was the most exciting thing I ever did, right? So you can actually tell a little story at the beginning. That's why it's a pyramid. The hook may be a little longer and more interesting. It says you can use a quote, so just be careful, okay? We're not looking things up, so you may not be so much into using a quote, unless you have a really good one that, this is my motto when I read this, or like the one about the book. You could say, wings of fire, take me away, or something, said the main character of the book. So it's not impossible to use quotes on this, but just be careful, like who are you quoting and why, right? You can create an image. In other words, you can see help the reader see the topic, right? It toddles along the edge of the ice, looking over a sharp-dressed waiter. Oh, looking like a sharp-dressed waiter. That's a penguin, right? Then unexpectedly, it leaps into the frigid ocean. You kind of draw in a picture of why it is, and then you're going to tell about what the topic is. And then provide a surprising fact or statistics, right? If you're looking for a special celebration, mark April 25th on your calendar as World Penguin Day. I didn't know that. And or you could do a startling statement and just surprise your reader. Penguins need your help, So there's a lot of different ways to do this. So what I'd like you guys to do with your topic is I want you to try any three. Like use your topic that you've chosen and ask a question. And I've been kind of giving some examples there, but remember last week I was talking about the fact that, like, for me, playing piano might be my topic. So my question is, I might ask a question like, have you ever wondered how people play piano notes so fast? Have you ever seen those people go, ooh, I was just like listening to some Chopin today, and he loved notes, lots of notes, right? So have you ever wondered how they play piano so fast, right? Or have you ever wondered how people learn how to play, right? You can even have more than one question if you want to while you're kind of, once again, planning. You could ask a rhetorical question like, who doesn't enjoy an exciting piano recital with people playing Chopin? I don't know. Maybe nobody would like that. Rhetorical, right? You could tell a story. Like when I was 5, I'm not going to type this one in, but when I was 7, I had my first piano recital and I was so nervous. But then I realized that I could play the song and I loved taking a bow at the end. And then I could say, learning to play piano is something that anybody can do if you want to put in the time and effort to learn it, right? Something like that. You can tell a story first. You could use a quote. Once again, like, I'm kind of staying away from that this time, but if you have a quote about your sport or something that you really know, you could say, like Mozart once said, blah, blah, blah. But I don't want you to go look stuff up. So just be careful about the quote one. You can create an image, right? When I see a piano, I can't wait to touch the keys and feel the vibration of the strings when I play, right? Reaching out and looking at how people feel about something or what something tastes like. For example, I think Leticia was talking about cooking, right? Maybe you can pick, like, when I bite into a delicious s'more, I know that cooking is just the best thing of all, or whatever. So you can create an image. Provide a fascinating fact or statistic. This might be good for sports, right? Especially about soccer. Did you know that 1 million people in the world play soccer? You could look it up. And a startling statement, right? Did you know that that there are 88 keys on the piano, and that you can play a really high note or a low note, something like that. I don't know. My piano isn't so good for that. So guys, I just want you to try any three. It says it at the top. Your goal is to come up with like 3 possible ones, and then you can choose one, right, to use when you do your draft. Last thing, I want you to kind of play around with making your own hook. And then you can kind of, follow the instructions that were up here and see if you can come up with the hook. This would be like your introduction paragraph. And last but not least, I actually want you to write down your topic and your hook, right? Make sure that you write your hook and that it includes your statement. So basically, you can type in your hook right here. And then I want you to go back to your planning, to your brainstorming, and I want you to pick 3 of these questions and use them as topic sentence. You can just type it in, like right after question 3 or question, oops, that should be question 1 there, sorry. Oops, I did that wrong. Question 1, right, and question 1 would be like, I don't know, my piano one. Have you ever wanted to play piano? Or you could say something like, do you think the piano is hard to learn, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put 3 statements here that would be sentences. Now, you don't have to do sentences right now. You can just put like little thoughts if you want to. This is your organizer. So if you don't want to write it in complete sentences, that's fine. But if you do write in complete sentences, then basically you've already written your body of your paragraph if you do all 3 of these. So pick 3 questions, type the question in, and then right here, think about what would you say? How would you answer that? How would you explore that in your paragraph? And you're basically planning, okay? So you can say, yeah, it takes practice. The other thing is that you basically you really need a teacher. And you basically have to learn the theory of music to be successful. In other words, like there's a lot of things in terms in reading music, right? You have to learn to read music. That's not something you can do overnight. Now, some people are really good at, picking up and doing instruments without help, but I'm not one of those. So you guys can see on my example, I want you to do that for each one of these. Pick 3 of your questions from your brainstorming. I don't care which ones, or come up with a new one. Right, now that you kind of see where we're going with that. And don't forget to type in your hook that you came up with here, right? And and make sure you know your topic, right? So if you just type in your hook and your little introduction, make sure that it shares what the topic is. Why am I having you do this? Because once you do this, writing the rough draft is easy. You're just going to come back and I'm going to take this out of here so it's back to blank again. All right, guys. So that's what we're doing. If you have questions, don't forget Friday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are my best days to meet. I can meet on Monday and Thursday, but it's a little harder for me. So make sure that you complete your organizer here. It's due by next Thursday. Okay, and make sure you reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll turn off the recording, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday at our next class.